I think joy, like the ability to experience joy and the ability to adapt to risk are completely eye and eye. Like the better you are at coping with adverse situations and like dealing with risk, the more likely it is that you are going to fill yourself up with joy. Because joy is always on the other side of the unknown, and that means taking a risk. Like I remember my dad told me a story. His favorite story of that camper, he broke down in the middle of Moab on a mountain pass driving this giant motorhome. And he just freaking monstered this thing down the mountain pass. No power steering, no brakes, like just monstered this motorhome all the way down the pass. I'm pretty sure with a trailer. No, not with a trailer, but that was a different no brakes, no power situation for my dad on the mountain pass. But he tells that story as if it was literally the greatest moment of his life. And I think that is such a key attributing factor to joy, is like, for him, that really is such a moment of joy and of pride and like, wow, that was a moment I was alive instead of that was the worst experience of my life.
See, it's funny you say that because Jackie, my fiance, she's like, her whole thing, she makes fun of me all the time because she's like, you can't have a good time unless it was terrible. Like, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, I mean, going through terrible experiences is part of having a good time. She's like, unless it's raining and wind and it was 12 miles rather than 4 miles, like you're not having a good time. And I'm like, well, that's not all of it, but yeah, like if you get through the experience, like there's a lot of happiness to that, you know? Like there's one time with my Jeep, my buddy Patrick and I built this Jeep and we were, you know, it's all completely, we built all of it. We've got like this, it's the sketchiest little thing to make the motor run because the motor's out of like a 96 Camaro that has an anti-theft system. And so we, not wanting to pay for a real computer retune, we just like built this sketchy little circuit that tricks the computer into thinking that it has the right key.
Yeah.
And so we're out like, I don't know, 5 miles on this Jeep road, like not a crazy road, but just like a fun mountain. Yeah, a fun mountain road. And I shut it off to like take some pictures of the like super nice scenery that was going on. And then we go to get back in the Jeep and try and start it, and it doesn't start. And I'm like, I know exactly what the problem is. That sketchy little circuit that we built probably fried, and you can look at it, and there was like one little melted piece on the circuit board.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, this melted, like it doesn't start anymore.
We can short this with.
So we had to like, so we're basically like, all right, well, I guess we have to leave it here. We're 5 miles out on the trail, and we've got like 50 pounds of tools, probably 100 pounds of tools. So we're not about to leave the tools in the Jeep.
Yeah, no.
So we've got like luckily we had taken one bag, like a backpack, and filled it with tools. And then we had like another like toolbox where the handle, of course, was broken off. So we had to carry the one 50-pound backpack and the other 50-pound toolbox all the way the 5 miles back to the truck, so that we could drive home and go to Radio Shack the next day and get another little shitty circuit board, and then walk all the way back out there and hope to God that was actually the problem. Yeah, put it back into the circuit board and fired right up. I was like, oh my God. First thing we did when we got home, at least we learned the lesson. You know, we got home, sent that thing off to be retuned for $100. You know.
Yeah. Well, I think that anyone who wasn't watching via YouTube and couldn't see Brian's face while he told that story, ear to ear grins.
It was a great time. I mean, it was a terrible experience.
But it's such a good story.
It was a terrible and that's a lot of what Jeeping's about, is going out and having a really terrible, hard time. But at least you made it home, you know? Like you made it back, so it's all right.
I was telling my wife Allie about what a horrible, horrible day I had today at my job site, and she used to do some of what we did of like, because we all kind of took a step back and we were cleaning a job site today, and it was just a train wreck, and everything that went wrong could have gone wrong, and it was just a terrible, terrible mess. And Allie's listening to the story, and halfway through me telling it, she just like, why do I wish I was there today? Why do I wish I was a part of the gang? Like, why do I wish I was going through this horrible experience with you right now? I'm like, because that's where like the real moments of life are when you're really testing yourself and you're in this crazy, wild experience. I'm such a big believer that joy isn't something that happens because there isn't a good time. It's because of how you reacted to a bad time. Or like a bad experience or like a bad situation.
There's a balance.
There's a balance.
Yeah. If everything sucks, it's pretty tough. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just how you choose to react to it.
No, I've got to tell this story just because of the timing of everything. So I just recently bought a house it was a hoarder house, so it was all full of everything. I haven't even told you guys about this yet. So there was like this funky smell in the basement, and we couldn't really figure out what it was. Like maybe it was a dead animal, maybe it was cigarette smoke over so many years. Like who really knows what it was? But we had this section of the house that was like this 1/4-inch drywall with popcorn ceilings and gold flake in it, like literally gold flake. And my fiance Jackie hates popcorn ceilings, so she's like on this mission to take down all the popcorn ceilings. So I'm like, all right, that's your job then. You can take down the popcorn ceilings. And so she
a true romantic.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you want it done, then you do it. And so she's like, all right, I'll take them down. And so she's down there and she pulls down like the first panel of popcorn ceilings, and mouse poop just rains down from the top of the ceilings.
Oh no.
So she comes and because I was working upstairs on something else, and she comes and gets me. She's like, come and look at this. And I look, and you can just see the little mouse poops everywhere up there, but you can't like see how much, because it's like dark. There's just a little section open up. I'm like, well, it's a good thing we're taking it out, like we don't want that stuff up there.
It's a good thing you're taking it out.
It's a good thing. That was my words for sure. And so then I'm like, all right, well, put on the mask, put on the goggles, and get after it. And so she got up there and like it was insane. I've never seen so much mouse poop in my life. She like pulled down half the drywall, and it just like the whole section slid down. It's just like, yeah, disgusting. And so, but at the end of it, we got to tell that story to somebody else later that day, and they laughed about it, and we laughed about it. She had a terrible time at the time.
But even her telling the story about how terrible it was,
yep, she was laughing. She was still smiling. Yeah. Now you guys will get to hear it, and so it'll be fun to see how this story goes into the future, because that was 3 days ago.
Yeah, it was not long ago. I think that's such a cool moment, because also that room that you're speaking of is going to be your bedroom.
Yeah.
I honestly think is hilarious.
It was when we originally talked about it.
Yeah. Which I think is hilarious, because if it worked and there's no more smell and all that stuff, every time you go to bed, you're both going to lay down, stare at that ceiling, and at least chuckle once of like, ha, that was awful. And then go to bed with a smile on your face.
Yep, for sure.